Perfect. Perfect.
Welcome back to the vlog on this glorious day, everyone. Great to see you again. And today we've got another great storyline. Actually, what we're gonna do at the end of the video, I'm gonna walk you through another little thing, a little update I did to the Jaguar. It's not a huge one, but it's something that I think we can all appreciate when you drive these great cars, that there's things that you're going to wanna do. And I'm going to do that at the very end. I picked up this product and I'm going to try to work with it a little bit later on in the video, and I'll show you how I did that. Now, besides that, today we're really just gonna talk about the F Type somewhat. I stumbled across an article actually on one of the Jaguar forums on Facebook, and actually it was really referencing the Drive Tribe, and they were talking about, is this, or what is the ultimate midlife crisis car? I mean, some people would say a Jaguar, sure, you know what, it's an expensive luxury car to say, hey, I've finally made it. And you know what, I've often thought about that myself. Now, granted, you know, I'm just touching in my 50s now, but I've never considered myself midlife because I've always had these sorts of tastes of cars. But there are people that spend their entire life really effectively driving around in minivans, SUVs, pickup trucks, cars, small little putt-putts just to get around, because for the most part, a lot of people, like I said, looking for the practical solution. But you know, as we get older, the kids move on, you know, maybe you're looking for other things, you know, you have more time on your hands, now you're a little bit older, you have a little more money in the bank account. And of course, as we can see what's going on in today's crisis, obviously a lot of people are making those choices. But the bottom line is, if you were to spend a significant amount of your savings on a car, what kind of car would that be? I mean, what is the ultimate in midlife crisis car? Could it be an F Type? I mean, personally, I think the F Type checks many boxes if you're going to be shopping for a midlife crisis type car. I mean, the F Type looks great, absolutely. There's really not a bad angle. I mean, these cars look awesome. And we could talk about the 550 horsepower or the 575 horsepower supercharged V8 engine wrapped under the hood. Yeah, sure. For the most part, midlife crisis guys don't worry about those 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. They really don't care for the most part. They want a car that makes them feel nice, it's comfortable, it smells like fresh fine leather. Maybe it has that rumble or the roar or that screeching turbo. Whatever it is, the midlife crisis car has to check those boxes. But above all, it has to say, hey, I've made it. And so I've often wondered, you know, what would be the ultimate in midlife crisis car? Now, let's do a little bit of a walk around. I'm gonna hit a couple local car lots, and I'm gonna point out some of the cars that I personally think are great midlife crisis cars and some of the things that they bring to the table. I mean, after all, an F Type really does bring it all together, but there are some other great options out there. And not only are there great options, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts, and each and every one of your thought in the comment section below. Which ones do you think are the best options for a midlife crisis car? After all, I think there's definitely a couple that come to mind for almost everybody, and it starts with a C and it ends in a C8. But you know what? There's lots of great cars out there to choose from. So let's take a little bit of a look around some local car lots, and you tell me whether you think ultimately the F Type, whether it's in coupe or convertible or whatever that looks like, is the ultimate in midlife crisis car, or if it's one of these other cars, or maybe it's one that I haven't even come across. So I'd love to hear your story, but let's get into it now. Well, here's a great one. It's a Jaguar XKR. Obviously, the F Type was inspired by this. But these are very, very cool. Obviously, with the XKR, this is an extended derivative of the XK, but these cars here have about 510 horsepower. If you get the S model of this, you can basically look at getting probably in that 550 horsepower. It's essentially the older version of what you have now in the current F Type R engine. So it's a great car. This is certainly something that would definitely appeal to an older audience. You know, it's high performing, it's luxurious, it absolutely has the sex appeal and the lines that only Jaguar can really offer. The British cars really do have that, but it's a beautiful machine in this Jaguar XKR. Obviously here you can see we're talking about supercharged. So it's absolutely a beautiful machine. And I know reading the article, another big debate was the Porsche 911, always high on a checklist or a bucket list for a lot of people. Porsche really is synonymous with performance, and who doesn't want to drive a 911? But even more than any other Porsche, the 911 does stand out. But here is a beautiful example. Let's take a look. Right here, this is a GTS, And not only is it a GTS, but it's got some amazing touches. You've got center lock rims there, and look, you've got carbon fiber rockers, and even the hood is carbon fiber. It's absolutely a beautiful car. Oh, we can't forget carbon fiber mirrors as well. It's absolutely a beautiful car. You've got a glass top on it, more carbon fiber here, and more carbon fiber on the back with those great center pipes. And obviously it's the latest and greatest. We're talking 991 generation of the GTS. Absolutely a wonderful car, and I honestly would tell you, and I've said this in previous videos, if I didn't buy an F Type, a Porsche 911 is definitely high on my list. I used to own many of them, and I really believe they are probably some of the best performance cars on the market today. And we have a BMW behind us here, and often BMWs wind up on lists for people for bucket lists. Obviously, some of the convertibles, M cars, things like that often make it there. Look at this. I can't help but say, here we have an E60 M5. I actually have one as well. But those rims, oh no, it's tragic. 1992 called and they want their rims back. But anyway, seriously, M5, lots of fun. Probably past the point of, where a lot of people are seeking these out for retirement because they are really sought out by enthusiasts and really enthusiasts only who have the patience to maintain these because they're very expensive. But anyway, and the next one is the granddaddy of midlife crisis cars, and it's right there. And we have the Corvette. Absolutely king of midlife crisis. The only way you could do this one better is if you have the convertible version. But sadly, what we have here, as you can see with this funky little logo here, this is the Stingray. So in other words, that's the base model. When this came out, this is the C7 Corvette, arguably the finest of all Corvettes to date. And a lot of people really believe they're better than the current generation C8, and they're definitely truer to the Corvette genre, if you will, because they've always been front end. They've always been front engine, rear drive, and they're awesome to drive. I truly can't tell you enough how great the Z06 and ZR1 actually are to drive. I've driven both, spectacular. Now, I'm not sure on these guys here, obviously with the Stingray, that to me, automatic Stingray convertible. That is the king of midlife crisis. And I mean, they are great looking cars, don't get me wrong. I mean, they've got that really low stance, they have an awesome profile. I mean, how can you go wrong with a Corvette for looks? I mean, obviously, it's that logo, it is just so popular. You've got the sharp front spoiler on there. Absolutely great cars, oversized wheels, red calipers around, and of course, you've got all kinds of vents. And of course, you've got the typical rear exhaust treatment, always belts out some great noises. So the Corvettes has always been a popular choice because it's affordable and it's attainable for the masses out there. If you seriously want a sports car, almost anybody could afford to buy one. You just got to put an extra few pennies down and you can step into this car. It's not like a Lamborghini or something. Almost anybody can truly get into one of these who've saved and earned throughout their lifetime. So that's why they're so popular and they're a lot of fun. So how do you go wrong with a Corvette? But personally, Z06, 650 supercharged horsepower in the C7, that's my favorite. The C8, there's been some battles with quality control, and quite frankly, I really believe they're way overpriced. I'd like to wait for them to come down, or even better, wait for the Z06 version of the C8. That's gonna be a hot rod. Word has it, 620 horsepower, and it'll be naturally aspirated, flat, plain crank, V8. It'll be a beast. Can't wait. I know there's another couple cars like the Boxster. They're very popular because they're quite affordable. Now it's the 718, of course, but back in the day it was the Boxster, then the 718. They're a mid-engine flat six, or they were. Now they're then they moved up into a four-cylinder engine, of course. And of course, there's some of those derivatives are going back to flat six again. But also, it's not just the Boxster, it's absolutely also the Cayman. And the best version of the Cayman right now is what we have here, and it's the GT4 right here. The Cayman GT4, I mean, if you look at it, absolutely a beautiful car with the red calipers. You've got the big inlet on the side, and they've got the great massive wing on the back. Obviously a very beautiful car all the way around. And even for an entry-level Porsche, I know it's not a 911, but these cars are absolutely great. And the bonus is you can get these in a manual gearbox, as if you look in here, you can see there's a manual to row your own gears. It's absolutely beautiful. So this toy just came off the bus. Obviously, it's still got the wraps on it, but that is another one. So any of those mid-engine Porsches are affordable and people like to buy those, because it doesn't mean they have to sell their second child just to buy their toy, obviously for retirement. So it's, to me, that's a great midlife crisis car. Obviously, any Porsche typically can fall within that realm, but I personally wouldn't consider a Cayenne or Macan any of those kind of criteria. To me, that's not a midlife crisis car. To me, you've got to step into a 911 or something like that, really, to consider it, a true midlife crisis car that you're spending significant coin on to show that, hey, you've made it. So there are a lot of great options here in the Porsche world, but those are the cars I would pick. And of course, any list wouldn't be complete. Of course, we have a Mustang over here. See, a Mustang GT 500, or it's a Shelby, and it's a convertible. Many convertibles wind up on the list of midlife crisis buyers. Obviously, Miatas, Fiats, convertible Mustangs, and convertible Dodges, obviously even Dodge Vipers. But a lot of those cars definitely fall under that criteria of cars that people seek out when they want to move into sort of that next level and stage of their life. Another one is this, and we're talking about a Maserati. Now, most SUVs to me wouldn't qualify as a midlife crisis car, but of course, the Maserati brand, like we see right here, is absolutely a beautiful vehicle. Now, other than these cheesy little vents, these are absolutely beautiful cars. And, these definitely would qualify because Maserati in general is very closely connected to Ferrari, and I don't think there's a car company out there that you consider more exotic than Ferrari. So Maserati definitely is one of those cars that people might consider stepping into if they're in their midlife crisis. Now, I can't find one right now, but I do really believe it's a strong honorable mention is the Lexus LC500. I've often reflected on that car too myself, and I've driven them, and they're beautiful cars. The V8 engine in there with 470 some horsepower, absolutely beautiful. They make great sounds, and honestly, the fit and finish is mesmerizing. They're so nice. The LC500 also has a beautiful stance, sounds great, goes good, and it's not going to spend a lot of time in the shop getting fixed. So it's a really easy car to live with, and that's a car I've often thought about buying. I mean, that's also sort of up there on my list. I've also had viewers that have commented that, an F Type is one choice, but an LC500 is a really close second place, and I would actually agree with that. It's certainly up there in my top 5 for that type of, that type of need. You're trying to buy a car that satisfies sort of the fun, the sound, the look, and it's really intended, obviously, for the older, more mature clientele. You're not going to find that racer kid that wants to go fast and go zippy and take it to the drag track. That's not the point of that car. But I'll tell you, it's a very mature type vehicle that goes as well as it looks. And again, the LC500 is an absolute winner for me. And I'm sure a lot of you would probably agree that that should be on any bucket list for somebody, hitting their 50s or 60s as sort of their final toy. Definitely could qualify. So one thing that I've noticed, actually when I bought the car, my car was in really good shape, had decent miles, but the previous owner was a little careless getting in and out or something. I think it's actually the seat belt, to be honest, that rubs on the driver's seat. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to update. I'm going to try to fix that up. So it's not cut or anything like that, but it's that it's essentially on the bolster. There's the seam or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I guess it's the piping along the edge of the seat that has some scuffage. Now I ran the finger along it, and if you come here, we'll show you. It actually doesn't have any real damage per se. Now, it doesn't actually have any real damage here or anything, but if you look up here, it's nice and kind of crisp black, and then down here, it's rubbed a little raw, if you will. And I suspect some of it has to get in and out because of the thick bolsters, and some of it might have been just this constant, when you're pulling the seatbelt like this forward, probably rubs there, and over time, that's what's going on. I'm careful about trying not to rub this anymore, but I suspect, and like I said, this was here when I bought the car, but I suspect the previous owner wasn't quite as careful. And if you want to prevent this, just be careful with the seatbelt. Make sure you pull it around when you're seatbelting yourself up. Like basically pull that forward and then over. We're going to use this product. It's called Leather and Vinyl Recoloring Balm, and it's black. So you can order this in a multitude of different colors. As a matter of fact, some of these manufacturers do give you different mixes so that you can sort of tone it up, tone it down, or change it depending on your color of your interior. Now, this is pretty standard. I've got a black interior, makes things a little easier that way. But I'm going to use this, and there's a few parts to this kit when you buy it. There's a couple of the larger pads. There's a brush, And there's this, as well as if you got bigger cuts, you're gonna have to do more filling, and you're gonna have to use a special filler in there. But for now, I'm not a professional upholsterer. I'm not gonna pretend to be. If I had any serious damage, I'd probably consider just taking it into the shop. But to me, it's these little touch-ups that are worth doing yourself. I mean, ultimately, why not do them here and then keep the car looking top shape? So I'm gonna open this up. I already had a quick boo at it, and peeling this away, as you can see, it's kind of a bit of a paste and kind of yucky coloring, to be honest with you. But what I'm going to do is take this. I would use gloves as I'm doing, and I'm going to take a little bit of this on here, and like I said, it's kind of a funky texture. It's a little bit of a gel texture, and I'm going to rub it on the edge of that piping there, and so get that nice and wet on there. Put this back on for now, and we're going to go in here and we're going to just partially, I don't want to get too thick on there. I want to just make sure it's nice and even so you don't have globs. And then I'm just going to rub it on that. Really, what you should be doing is daubing this like this, so you're not really getting any smear marks. You want it to look as natural as possible. So I'm just going to do this all the way along. And then what I'm going to do, I won't show that, but essentially use a blow dryer or heat gun. A blow dryer will suffice to accelerate the drying, but you can use a blow dryer, like I said, or thereabouts. So just to help accelerate the process, so you're not waiting too terribly long for this to dry up. Anyway, that's all I'm doing right there. And I'll show you the final product later, maybe on the next video, but essentially that is what we've got. We've just done a daub like that. If you need to do this, if say that's not enough, you might want to do this, apply it twice. So you do this, dry it, come back a little bit later, and you can reapply. This is not a do-it-yourselfer, but this is what I'm doing to potentially fix up some of these kind of raw spots on my car. So that's it. It's really as simple as that. Like I said, I'll wait and see. I might add some heat and try it again, put another application. But that's about all there is to it. This year, I got this product quite cheap. It's about $30. I don't necessarily want to point you in the direction. The online organization that I bought this from makes plenty of money on their own, so I don't need to give them a plug. But I will say this particular product is, I'll let you know how this goes, but basically it's priced right, and there you have it. There's certainly more expensive options than this. They might be better, they might not, but we'll give this a try, and I'll let you know how it goes. So what do you think about that little repair? It didn't take very much to do that little fix on the seat. Obviously, if it's more than that, if you've got a rip or a tear or something more gouged, then you got to use filler, and then you've got to do a little sanding, and then of course more filler, more sanding, and then multiple coats. But fortunately, I just had a minor scuff. I just wanted to improve it because it's a bit of an annoyance. But other than that, again, please drop a line. I'd love to hear your thoughts on, the best midlife crisis car in your opinion. Love to hear it. Either way, hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. Catch you real soon. Bye-bye.